Hi, my name is Angela R Hughes, and this is my interview with the Table Read. I'm really excited to be here and tell you all about myself. Well, I am an author. I have writing a trilogy currently. I am also a writing coach and work for a publishing company. I am a wife and mother of two amazing children, and I am also a super nerd when it comes to Celtic mythology and Arthurian legend. I spent 2 years of my younger life living in Ireland, and then also have since traveled all over England, Northern Ireland, Ireland, and Wales. The landscape, the history, the ancient ruins that still exist just have captured my imagination, and it's driven me to study extensively legends, Celtic mythology, and really Norse mythology, Germanic mythology, Greek mythology, but more particularly Celtic mythology and Arthurian legend has captured me. And I have read every book, taken every class, and really put a lot of that into my writing. And it's what has inspired me as a fiction fantasy author, is all of these stories and landscapes that I have put my own spin on. My latest book is book 1 of the Once and Future Chronicles, Elanor and the Song of the Bard. It came out in June. I'm actually publishing book 2 here very soon, and book 3 is in the middle of being written. This book is very inspired by Arthurian legend. And, but what makes it unique is that I have gone to the very, very old legends of Arthurian legend. Most people think that all of the Arthurian tales take place in medieval England. The truth is, the older tales are more Welsh in origin and are much older, far before there were castles, far before there were knights in shining armor. Some of these original stories came to be in oral storytelling and were captured much later, in like 1000 AD. So my story takes place before all of the castles, before all of the knights, with some of your familiar characters. But what makes my story different is that I'm starting my story with the death of Arthur. Most Arthurian retellings have always kind of retold the old story, or taken, bits and pieces from the old story and retold it. And I've really taken this bit of the Arthurian legend and done something I haven't seen very many other writers do, which is write a new take on what happened after the death of Arthur, with my character Merlin and my new character Elanor, who actually travels through time and finds herself in this old Celtic world where the warriors are painted blue, and they're not wearing, sheets of armor, but they might have had, some lingering armor left over from post-Roman occupied Europe. So anyway, this is my spin on that, and it definitely has the fun high fantasy elements of dragons and demons and ethereal creatures, and it's really a good time. And if you read book 1, you won't hardly be able to wait for book 2. Well, I kind of talked about that a little bit already. Just the old ruins, the idea of stories that could be real, and that the idea of fantasy and legend could have actually existed really inspired me. And I wanted to tell what happened after Arthur's death. I wanted to take on that story, that what happens when all of the promise and destiny that is given, when all of everything that you were banking on completely fails, crumbles to the ground. Arthur is dead. There's nothing that remains. There's no more hope. Where do you pick up a story and begin to see that maybe a hope could come back again, like a phoenix out of the ashes. And that's what really inspired my story, and being able to just, nerd out and see for myself and go on this adventure for myself what it would have been to go back to that old world. Well, Elanor, I think, is a conglomeration of people. I think all writers, in a way, all of our characters are really a piece of ourselves. All of our characters are inspired by our experience, and so they're all us. And yet, all of our characters are not us. They're their complete own creation. And but I definitely took elements of Elanor, who is kind of this person happy to live in the shadows and not be noticed. That's been her life experience. And I wouldn't say that I experienced that, but some of the abuse and the trials that kind of brought her to this place of being okay with just kind of being on her own and being alone, that were inspired by my own life, by friendships and traumas that I have walked through with people I have been close to. I really kind of tried to put that in there. And I love that we get to go on this journey with Elanor, where she is this person who is happy being a shadow, and how she's forced to look at some of her pain and actually become something better, become something of strength, to become something of courage, and someone who has the strength and ability to bring hope. And then my other character, Merlin, I really have the two point of views. He was very inspired by some of the older prose of Arthurian legend. Most depictions of Merlin are this old man with a blue pointy hat and a white long beard, more of a Gandalf version. But really, you look at some of the older Arthurian legend ideas of Merlin, and he was a changeling. Sometimes he was young, sometimes he was old. Sometimes he was more like a sprite or a demon. And I kind of liked that concept of bringing back some of those old ideas of who Merlin was. I was also really inspired by the BBC show Merlin, because I liked how they made him a more youthful Merlin that was tangible and human, less of a Gandalf character. We all love Gandalf, but I wanted my character to really have these human emotions and be more a part of the world instead of other. And so I did take that inspiration. My Merlin character is definitely a much younger character, and him and Elanor get to meet and kind of discover for themselves this new purpose because of each other. And it's really exciting how they connect, how this whole time warp thing begins to happen, and the mystery of it and how it all unravels throughout the story. I know everyone who loves Arthurian legend or loves a good epic fantasy is going to enjoy this story. I think my absolute most favorite thing about being a fantasy writer is that this is the best opportunity I will ever have as an adult to play the best game of pretend that I could ever play. You get to imagine worlds and actually make them exist. You know, when you pretend, when you're a child and you pretended, you would go on this story and adventure, and when it was over, it was over. You might be able to tell somebody about it, but it was gone. And as an adult, you can actually imagine these worlds and these realms and these stories and make it come alive for other people. They actually get to play the game of pretend along with you when they read your stories. And I just think that magic, the magic of the imagination, is one of my favorite things about being alive. And it's one of my favorite things to share with people. And to be able to write stories and put exciting adventures on paper, and to bring characters alive that touch us, heal us, make us excited about living. Even with my characters who go through so much pain and hardship, how they heal can touch us and transform us. And I love the idea of bringing in, that's what I love about mythology. That's what captured me about Celtic mythology and a lot of the old stories of British stories, is this idea of magic, and that there's something more out there that can be touched. And And stories have a power to transform. And I know that I can't sit down and write a story without it transforming me. In order to be a good writer, I think you have to be vulnerable on the page. You have to actually explore your own emotions. There's so many times that I'll write a character and I'll have a scene where I'm having a hard time writing. And the reason why is because I just stumbled upon a bump in my own heart, something else inside of me that needed to be resolved. And I think that as a writer, we have the opportunity to go, oh, I'm going to heal that. I'm going to explore what it is to heal this area in my life through the characters that I've written, experience traumas and how to journey through them through a character. It's an exciting invitation to write a story. And I think even as I encourage other people to write, sometimes we get so bogged down with grammar and doing it right and all the other thousands of people who are writing stories and will my story even matter? And the bottom line is you'll never know until you write it. And just experiencing writing itself is worth it. Experiencing your own story, getting it out on paper is worth the adventure. And definitely you feel it when you read a story, when your author is gone on the adventure. You feel the magic. And I definitely captured that, I believe, in this trilogy and in Elanor and the Song of the Bard. You will be very excited to continue on the journey and to get into book 2 and book 3. I kind of said it a little bit, but I think the piece of advice I would give is just write. Get past the perfectionism. It's not going to make you a better writer to be so perfectionistic about your work. You will start as a level 1 writer and you will write a story, and then your next story you will have matured and progressed, but you won't mature and progress as a writer if you don't write that first story. If you're so worried about that first story not being good enough, or if you're so busy comparing yourself with other people that you defeat yourself before you ever get started. The journey of creativity is absolutely worth it. And you got to just write. And another thing I like to tell people is there's really no such thing as writer's block. There's just a such thing as allowing yourself to get to a place where you stop writing. And I don't know how many times I've gotten to a place where it was like pushing a rock up a hill to write a chapter, but you just can't stop. It's like when you go to the gym and you work out and you get on track where you're like doing it regularly and then you stop and then getting back on that ball. And when you hit a wall, when it comes to writing, you don't stop, even if it means like picking up a journal and writing in a journal and just writing about something else. And some of the things that I do is I'll pick up somebody else's book, and that will like really help me stay on the writing track and yet get me out of those blocks, or even watch a movie to kind of help me become fascinated again. And those are the kinds of things that help me continue to keep writing. Well, you can buy it right now on Amazon. You can also buy it at Barnes & Noble. You can also go to AngelaRHughes.com and you can purchase it there, as well as my services as a writing coach. You'll find that on my website as well. And I highly recommend you check out the Myth and Legends page. If you're at all like me and you enjoy a dragon or a mythological beast or a hero, you'll love to check out that page and again get a little nerdy and see some of the actual history of some of these characters that we've learned to love through our writing and through stories that have already been told. So that is all I have to say. I'm super excited. Don't hesitate. Pick up my book. You will enjoy the story. There is time travel. There is a love story. There are so many characters that return. And yet it's fresh and new because this isn't set in medieval times. This is set with a whole new perspective on what these characters would have looked like and what they would have acted like and what their experience would have been. And so anyway, thank you so much to the Table Read for interviewing me, and I look forward to more.